Hello, my name is Tyler Coleman, and today I'm going to be giving a speech over the Ottoman Empire. Before I begin to talk about the rise of the Ottoman Turks, or even how they got there in the first place, it's important to discuss with you what exactly was going on at that time in that part of the world. There's a kind of ancient Cold War going on between the Byzantine Empire and the Islamic Caliphate. The Byzantine Empire is basically the eastern part of the Roman Empire with a new name. You see, the Roman Empire was composed of a Western Empire and an Eastern Empire. After the Western Empire fell due to internal conflicts and barbarians, outside conflicts, the Eastern Roman Empire gave itself a new name, and they sought to rebuild the Roman Empire. They did pretty well, but they did not succeed. The Islamic Caliphate began under Prophet Muhammad, who is the founder of Islam. Now, he wanted to conquer land as well as his descendants for Islam. He wanted to conquer land for Islam. And he conquered most of Arabia, and when he died, his descendants took over, and they ended up conquering 4 different dynasties later, the entire Middle East. Now, obviously, conquering the Middle East would have included going up against the Byzantine Empire, and as such, they became mortal enemies. During this Cold War between the Byzantine Empire and the Islamic Caliphate, a group of nomadic tribes called Turks came in from Asia and slipped into the Middle East. Now, among these group of tribes, a set of tribes called the Seljuk Turks came in and started gaining lots of power in the Middle East. They took a lot of power away from the Islamic Caliphate and really threatened the Byzantine Empire. For no one, not even the Islamic Caliphate, had gotten that close to Constantinople, or the boundaries of the Byzantine Empire as it stood, as is noted by Dr. Edward Reynolds. These nomadic tribes of Turks around the year of 1000 AD began to massively convert to the religion of Islam, and they became a religious power. And around this time as well, another nomadic tribe really began to gain power. That tribe was called the Ottoman Turks. No one's really sure what part of Asia they originated from, but it's safe to say they are from Asia, as well as the other tribes of Turks. Anyways, they're called the Ottomans because of their leader, or caliph even. Their caliph his name was Osman, and out of respect, they deemed themselves the Ottoman Turks. Now, the Ottoman Turks swept in and started to take the land from the Seljuk Turks and the Islamic Caliphate, and they took everything over, and they started warring with the Byzantine Empire as well. The Byzantine Empire, as strong as it was, could not stand up to the Ottoman Turks. The Ottoman Turks were relentless. They were under the promise, or the belief, or the idea that God had promised them this land, and that they were winning this land in the name of Islam. God was in their favor. And that promise made them absolutely relentless. And soon, all that remained of the Byzantine Empire was Constantinople, a former shadow of Constantinople. And soon enough, the Ottoman Empire's armies began to encircle Constantinople with intentions of invading and taking it over. Now, the Islamic Caliphate that I had described to you before, many years before the Turks even came into the picture, had tried to take over Constantinople before, but Constantinople was too well fortified of a city, and its troops were way too brave and well trained. They drove the Muslims out time and time again. They couldn't manage to siege the city. Now, around 1350 AD, the Ottoman Empire began to circle around Constantinople. They really wanted to conquer Constantinople because to them, that was the only thing standing in their way to expanding into Eastern Europe and continuing their empire. Unfortunately for the Ottomans, around that time, the Mongolians began to expand into the Middle East and were attacking Ottoman lands. And if it hadn't been for the timely death of their general, the Ottoman Empire would have faced certain destruction, for they were very bloodthirsty and relentless. Around 100 years later, the siege of Constantinople began by the Ottoman Turks. The city was not quite what it was back in its glory days, for at one point, the peak of its existence, it had around 1 million citizens inhabiting the city. At this point, there was only about 50,000 citizens, and their military had been reduced from many to only 7,000. Their navy only had 25 ships. Nevertheless, they held the Ottoman Turks out for roughly 8 or 9 weeks. They did pretty well. They fought bravely, but in the end, the Ottoman Turks overwhelmed them, and they took over Constantinople. They renamed the city Istanbul, and they began to expand into Eastern Europe. The Ottoman Empire went on to expand into much of Eastern Europe, and it lasted until around the 1900s. It unwisely entered in World War I under the side of the Central Powers, and obviously, as history foretells, the Central Powers lost, and the Ottoman Empire disbanded as a result. And thus was the rise and the fall of the Ottoman Empire. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned a few things.